In this post-apocalyptic world, you need to build your refuge and feed your survivors in Paris, New Eden. Thank you for joining us at Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp.
And I'm Kevin Delp. Paris New Eden is a 2 to 4 player dice drafting set collection action selection game that takes about 45 minutes to play.
It's published by Matagot, and they sent us this copy to review.
During setup, each player gets a player board and receives 3 mission cards, and they'll choose one and discard the rest. You'll place out tokens, tiles, and cards on the board, and roll dice in the different areas. Each area shows the number of dice based on player count. You'll also reveal cards under each of the building decks.
Here's a quick overview. The game is played over the course of 4 seasons, and each season has 4 phases. First, you're going to gather survivors. That's basically drafting the dice and taking actions. Then you'll acquire building cards. Then you'll resolve an event. And finally, you'll need to feed your survivors.
When you gather a survivor, you choose one die from a location and take the action associated with that location, like getting a can of food, taking a survivor token, gathering equipment, drawing more mission cards, or influencing the event. Your drafted dice go in the slots on your player board. Once all the dice are drafted, you move to the acquire buildings phase, going in turn order from whoever has the binoculars.
You'll start with the Tinkerer buildings. Players declare how many Tinkerers they have on their player board, counting dice and tokens.
You can add wild survivors to your strength, but they can only be used once. Whoever has the most Tinkerers gets first choice of a card, and then you move to the next highest. If you don't have any Tinkerers, or there aren't any face-up buildings left, you don't get one.
You'll follow the same process for each building type. You'll discard the dice you've used and place the buildings you've collected in front of you. Most of the buildings give you more survivors for your refuge and or equipment. Some of the Tinkerer cards have special abilities. You'll find all the Tinkerer powers listed on the back of the rulebook for easy reference.
After acquiring buildings, you'll resolve the event. If you have the right number of survivors and matching equipment, you'll get the indicated points.
Then you count up the number of survivors in your refuge, the tokens and the ones printed on your building cards, and adjust your population on the track. The track tells you how many farmers you need to feed your community. You can spend cans of food to replace any farmers you don't have. If you can feed everyone, then you'll get the points listed.
And then you'll prepare for the next season by rolling the dice in the locations, revealing more building cards, and things like that.
At the end of 4 seasons, the game will be over. You'll tally up your end game points, and whoever has the most points wins.
Many of the mission cards give you end game points based on what you have at the end of the game. Sometimes you have to have the most of something.
Most of the other points you'll get during the game by feeding your survivors and completing events.
I like how the event tiles work. When you draft a die, you turn one event face down, and that event won't score, so once both dice are drafted, only one event will be showing at the end of the season, and they get more difficult to complete each season, but they also get you more points.
I think the flow of the game works well.
I agree, yeah.
You're drafting your dice, then you're getting buildings, then you'll do a few things at the end of the round, like feeding your people in the events. It all really makes sense as you're playing and walking through the different seasons.
I think the theme comes through in the artwork and illustrations. You'll notice the historic landmarks from Paris and how the vegetation has sort of taken control. So for the gameplay, it really doesn't feel like this post-apocalyptic Paris. That doesn't mean I don't like the gameplay. I actually really do like the gameplay.
I like the different decisions that you have to make in the game. You're looking at what the die faces are and which ones of those you want, but also which actions you want to take, and the die you want might not be in the action place that you want. You also have to keep an eye on the other players to see what tokens and dice they're taking.
Yeah, there was one game and one round, there was only one farmer icon out on the whole board, and those farmers are pretty important for feeding your people, so it was really good to be the first player that round. But my personal preference is to try and go after that tiebreaker token really quickly.
He does all the time. And it does make sense because in the acquire buildings phase, often there is a tie in strength.
Yep.
So getting that first choice with the tiebreaker is really helpful because sometimes it's worse to get a bad building than to not get a building at all. Some of them have a ton of slackers on them, and they don't do anything for you except eat up your food. I think the Tinkerer cards are pretty powerful too. You can get ones that let you keep more mission cards, get more food, or even take the top card of the building deck instead of a face-up card.
There's good player interaction in the game. The other day, I just needed one more survivor and their matching equipment to complete a very high point event at the end of the game. But another player saw that and they snatched that survivor up. But I saw that they could complete a different one, so I went to the action space and turned that event face down. And basically denying them points.
Right. Basically, almost all the information is open except for your mission cards, so you can kind of see what players are doing and what they're going for. Mm-hmm. The big monkey wrench, though, is those wild survivors on the dice and tokens. So when you go into the building phase, I'm not sure, are they only going to use their one purple for the purple building, or are they going to add some survivors to it to up the strength? So as we're going around the table declaring strength, there definitely is that tension of, oh, do I need to add some of my wilds to this color, or should I save them for another color? What do I think Kevin's going to do? Sometimes it's nice being the last one to bid, because then you know what all the bids are. But it really is interesting interaction, kind of looking and seeing what other players are going to do.
Yeah, it almost feels with those wild survivors that you're almost bidding during that building phase. The layout of the board makes sense, and everything works so well together that setup and gameplay is a breeze. The insert also is well thought out with the different spots for the components. The iconography from the dice to the cards to the game board all works very well. My one little nitpick is that I wish there was some good way to identify what player color you are. I think it's supposed to be based on your player board, black, gray, white, or brown. I sort of see it, but wish it was clearer.
I definitely enjoyed playing this game. It's easy to learn and teach. I would say it's on the lighter side of medium for the complexity level. It's easy to understand what you're doing in the game, but there's still some meaty choices to make and decisions with your strategy. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
so Paris New Eden was in my list for most anticipated board games releasing at Essen. I'll have the link for that right up there. Melissa and I, actually, we saw a prototype of this at Gen Con, and we're really intrigued with it back then. I really enjoyed playing it. I enjoy the gameplay and really want to play the game again. So if you like dice drafting games, set collection games, then definitely check out Paris New Eden from Matagot, coming to retail soon. We would love for you to subscribe to Tantrum House and check out more videos coming from us soon.
And you will compile endgame points and see who has the most. I started saying words that didn't really make sense.
Started saying words that didn't make sense. Get that on camera.
I deny it. I deny it all.